Dear students, we already have learned about the positioning school of thought, its premises and its foundation, and what positioning school is all about. In this video, we will see the criticism on the positioning school of thought. The composition of this video will be, first of all, we will have an overview of the criticism on positioning school of thought. Then we will go point by point into the detail that how the literature has discussed the criticism on the positioning school of thought. So first of all, we will have an overview on the positioning school of thought. As this is same prescriptive school of thought which tells us that how the strategy should be formulated, same as the design and planning school. So it has the same grounds, which is the thinking, detachment of the thinking and acting, which means that there are certain kind of planners, there are certain kind of implementators, and they are not attached with each other during the strategy formulation process. So it has the same grounds as the design and the planning school. The second point is it is unable to take into account the social and political and cultural aspects and their complexities in the strategic planning and the formulation process. So this is a very important point which we need to discuss it further, that why this positioning school is unable to take into account the complexity of the political and social aspects, and especially the culture, internal and external cultural aspects of for the strategy formulation process. Before going into the detail of point by point discussion in the criticism of positioning school of thought, we must know that in the literature, there are certain kind of concerns on the positioning school of thought, and these concerns are on the basis of focus, context, processes, and strategies. We will see one by one all the concerns. The first concern is about focus. It is said that the focus of the positioning school of thought is very narrow. By narrow focus, we mean that it has a quantifiable focus. It misses all the complexities of the social aspects and the cultural aspects and the political aspects. So it has basically only the focus on the quantifiable economics and where the hard data is available. This picture well elaborates the concern about focus discussed in the literature of the strategic management on the positioning school of thought. It tells us positioning school of thought is mainly concerned with the economies, and it tells us that where the data is available, where the numeric data is available, then the positioning school of thought works well, and it ignores all of the political aspects and the social aspects, ignores all of the complexities involved in the political and social aspects, and it has focused only on the quantifiable data. So this is the major concern of the literature which is discussed in the literature in the positioning school of thought criticism. So the second point is the second concern which is discussed in the literature is the concern about the context. The context is it tells us that there are certain kind of big business and the traditional businesses that are that have the focus, stable focus, and that are operating in a stable environment and a stable context. And on the other hand, it says that there are the certain dynamic aspects of the strategic positioning. For example, it says that there are certain companies, if they take the first mover advantage, that may be an advantageous move for an organization. So on the first side, it assumes that their companies are operating in a very stable environment, and on the other side, it assumes that there must be some dynamic kind of move. This picture elaborates that how the concern about the context is discussed in the literature. The first thing is there are 4 kind of strategies available and discussed in the positioning school of thought, and these strategies assume that the environment is stable and predictable, and the organizations are operating in predictable and stable conditions. But on the other hand, it assumes that the organization should be operating in some dynamic conditions and should have some fast moves. By fast moves, we mean that certain kind of actions are needed that may not be possible in the stable and predictable conditions. The third concern is concern about processes. This concern says that do not go out and learn, but stay home and calculate. By this, we mean that usually the positioning school of thought assumes that the planner is sitting inside the organization and trying to assess the strengths and weaknesses and the opportunities and threats that are outside the organization. By sitting inside the organization, and they do not go out to learn, they do not see some innovative moves, or they do not see some interaction and the complexity of the environment and the structure and some political and the social aspects, but they sit inside the home and they try to assess on the basis of the hard data available. The fourth concern is concern about strategies. The strategies are the generic, which means that in the positioning school we have certain kind of strategies, and every organization has to choose from those 4 strategies, and there is no creative design available for the individual and the unique kind of organizations, which means that every organization has to choose among those generic strategies, and they cannot go beyond those generic strategies, and the creative and innovative design of new strategies is not possible. So in concluding remarks, we will see that what is the overview of the criticism on positioning school and what it has contributed. And this positioning school is a prescriptive school of thought, and it tells us that how strategy should be formulated, and it tells us that what is the ideal situation. So it has provided us some kind of generic strategies, and it tells us that it may be possible for organizations to select among those 4 generic strategies, but it strictly tells us that we have to select among those 4 strategies, and the creative design of new strategies may not be possible. It also overemphasizes on the hard data, and it misses the political and the social aspects of the organization.